Hey fellow gamers, Chatty Sisa here. We have some news and updates for the newest Dragon Age game, which is called The Veilguard, although I think most people are just simply dropping the D and just call it Veilguard. There was an official trailer last Sunday, then we had a gameplay show during the week, and some additional information which popped up mainly on Twitter from My Gamble, for example, or from the official Dragon Age pages. So let me just try to summarize it together. What I would like to say up front is I'm not one of those people who like to speculate and create theories. It's just not my style. That's also not what my channel is about. I'm just simply trying to summarize the information for you, provide you a good overview of what is known so far, and maybe just, add some bits and pieces from my own personal subjective view. So yes, there will be some points you might not be agreeing with. It's my own personal observation, like I said, but at least we have some news and updates that we can review together before the final game drops. It's quite a long time still since till that will happen. So let me just also mention there is a note in front of me, just in case you're wondering. I did write it because it is a lot. It was a lot of information, many impressions which I had from the trailer as well as from the gameplay, and also let's say I reviewed the feedback and the first impressions from other people, and I did try to summarize what I agree with and what is maybe something where I, let's say, reserve my judgment for a later time and where I think it was actually positive. So this is not a bashing of the gameplay and the trailer. It is also not super hyped. So just as a brief start, coming from a person who still remembers pixelated games, I think what I liked the most, both on the trailer and the gameplay, was that visual side or the graphic side. It looked really great. Now, I'm not talking about the content of the gameplay and of the trailer. I'm talking simply about the graphics. And I really loved all these little details there, like, the rain, the clothing, how it moved, the hair. So it was really very realistic for me, even though the art style isn't that much. So it is a bit more, it's not as realistic as probably people have expected. It's more kind of painted. I guess that would be the best description. Well, it's not anime style, okay, so that's definitely not what I would call it. I really like the fact that they have used the latest, let's say, evolution in the technology to make sure that the movements look very natural and the surroundings look very natural, the weather, etc. So I really do like that side. I have to say that up front, that one was something that I was really very impressed with. On the other hand, the trailer had a huge dislike ratio, really bad ratio, and many dislikes. And I can understand why and where the people are coming from. I think the best summary of all the negative comments was done by one person actually underneath the trailer in the YouTube comment section. Let me just scroll down and read it out. So I think that was the impression that most people had. It's like a combination of Overwatch, Fortnite, Marvel, Guardians of the Galaxy, and the trailer is meant for 11-year-olds to play. And some people even compared it to the Suicide Squad. I wouldn't be that harsh in the judgment, but I do have to say one thing. That trailer didn't feel like Dragon Age to me. Yes, you could see the companions, you could see Varric, you could hear the information there, which was related to Dragon Age, but that overall style and the mood of the trailer just didn't really feel like it was for Dragon Age. I felt it's like a little bit too funky. I don't know how else to say it, like too light, maybe. It's just not exactly what you would associate with Dragon Age. Dragon Age, for me, was always, this dark fantasy that was like gory and gritty. And this trailer was just, I don't know, like a trailer for a fun time, hack and slash, multiplayer game of some sort. That's how it came through to me. And it just didn't fit. Yeah, but let me show you the trailer and you can judge for yourself. Again, visually, the trailer was done like from a graphics perspective. The trailer was great. We could see all the companions or the new companions that have been introduced. So that is good. I do have a note to those companions, to be honest. So first and foremost, and this is not a secret with me, who's watching my channel or who has seen some of my older vids, you know very well that I really do like to see good-looking female characters. I know this is a fantasy game. I know we are talking here about various races and not human. The problem is that technically you are applying a human face to all of these races, whether they are Elven, Dwarven, or Kunari. All of these faces, you see them as a human face. Yes, they have pointy ears, they have horns, they have, I don't know, a beard, but you still see a human face. And that's where I think it's kind of off for me a little bit. When you have a complete different species, like it is, for example, in a sci-fi game where you see some alien species that has nothing to do with humans. I'm fine with whatever they look like, right? But the moment you apply a human face to a game, I would expect certain features to be represented for a male protagonist and for a female protagonist. And I do not like the Kunari here, I will be honest. The moment they said it's a female Kunari, I was quite taken aback because that face just doesn't look like that to me. It's too manly. If somebody likes it, all right. This is, like I said, just my subjective opinion, but I am absolutely not fond of that male-looking face. That's not a female face for me. So that female Kunari was quite a disappointment, to be honest. The only thing which I have to say was, let's say, positive was that the horns are now like turning back instead of sticking out towards the side. Unlike it was with the Iron Bull in Dragon Age Inquisition, I think that one just didn't make sense at all. Those horns sticking out to the side, it just looked ridiculous, to be honest. So this is now a style where they are going back a little bit to the Dragon Age 2 Kunari, how they looked like, and I think it makes more sense, and I think really it looks better. So I do have to say that one. And then also what was a positive thing was Harding. Actually, Harding looks really good compared with what she looked like in Dragon Age Inquisition. But I'm guessing this is really, again, just change in the face, also hand in hand with the technical advancement in the graphics. So they did make her look better and more beautiful. And I actually really like her face. So that one's really nice. Varric is aged. That's one of the things which I think everybody noticed. His hair is darker and he has a beard now, which was a bit surprising. I'm not sure if I like the darker hair. I mean, I was rather fond of the hair that he had before, kind of, dark strawberry, blonde, reddish kind of hair. And I think that suited him quite well. And I don't know what to think of this darker hair. I mean, you could see some gray hair on his head, so he's definitely aged. And there is also in the gameplay a certain portion which they were showing us, like a dialogue between him and Solas, and Solas is saying, hey, it's been years. So I'm wondering how many years actually passed between Dragon Age Inquisition and the events of Dragon Age Veilguard. So that will be interesting to see. in the new game. What I, again, didn't like from the trailer is 2 characters, which I think that gave me the impression why this trailer is so funky and, let's say, out of place for a Dragon Age trailer. It's Emmerich or Emmerich. I'm not sure how to pronounce it correctly. Apologies. Will be just reading it Emmerich. And the what was it? The Veil Jumper, Bellara, I think. For me, they looked like, at least in that trailer, they are portrayed like some weird slapstick comedy relief characters. I mean, what they're doing, the facial expressions, it just looks like, yeah, that's some funny, events here happening. And I don't know if that fits Dragon Age. No, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was nicely done, but it's just, I don't know what to think of these 2 characters. They just feel kind of off for me after the trailer. So that much for the trailer. Then we've got on Tuesday 20 minutes of gameplay with some additional info from Bioware and My Gamble, as I said, on Twitter. Let me just scroll a little bit because I have more info here, or more notes. To my surprise, even that gameplay vid was ratioed, which isn't so great. I think the people were just really very disappointed from the trailer. After waiting 10 years for something, they've got to see a trailer that wasn't really fitting the Dragon Age style, like I mentioned. So probably that's what their mindset was when they were going into the gameplay session and they were watching that session. At the time of this recording, it was kind of almost like half-half. So there was more dislikes than likes, but not by much. It was like, 50-50. So I think those gameplays, that showcase of the gameplay was positive for a lot of people, and maybe they rethought their opinion about the game and simply just moved away a little bit from the trailer. The trailers were always a little bit different for the Dragon Age games. I do have to agree with that one. So the trailers that we have seen were never really showing you exactly what the game is about, and when you started to play the game, it actually felt a bit different than the trailer. So I was expecting there a little difference, and it is something that also happened. The gameplay, when it started, was feeling a little bit more from the mood and from the overall impression that I had, more like Dragon Age. So it was more dark, more like gritty, as I said. So this one looked more like Dragon Age than the trailer. The character behavior, the music, it was way better, I would say. It's still not 100% Dragon Age, or something that I would say it's a Dragon Age game. And let me just go a little bit more into detail why I think this is. I think the trailer was mainly meant to attract a new audience, which is understandable. All the game developers try to pull in the, let's say, newer and younger generation who maybe didn't play the previous games. So they were trying to make the trailer appealing for them as well. I'm just not sure if that was the right move, considering how big the main fan base is, which is already a little bit older. And for them, the trailer was just a little bit off. What I have seen from the gameplay, I have noticed that the dialogue wheel is very familiar, so it is in the same, usual style, Dragon Age style. So that one felt quite good. And then we've seen a fight with pride demons, and those are pain in the ass, as they have been in the previous games as well. So obviously, that one was something that was familiar as well. There was something where I was like, whoa, seriously? And that was the scene with Solas, where Solas is trying to bring down the veil. And if you look at it from a few of the shots, it looks exactly as if BioWare would be copying a scene from The Witcher 3, where in the end of the game, Avalach is trying to, open a gate and try to start a new conjunction of the spheres. And if you compare those two scenes, it looks almost identical. To me, it felt like a copy from the Witcher 3 game, and it's just, I don't know, it felt like a cheap knockoff, to be honest. So I was a little bit disappointed by that scene, I have to say. When I was watching the combat, it looks to be way faster to me, but also that means it's more like hack and slash, and that's not really something where you could think of any tactics. You don't really have time to think about any tactics. The combat is faster, and I think, coming from the previous games, I think I will be dying quite a lot, to be honest. But it's not really something that would be, again, feeling very like Dragon Age to me. It was kind of, like I said, like hack and slash. That's not really what Dragon Age was about, the combat style. And unpopular opinion here probably, I actually did really like the, list of all the skills that you could see. For example, in Dragon Age 2, at the bottom of the screen, you had all the skills available to you. And during the combat, you could just pick all of them. So you could pick here one, there one, and you could just continuously use them in a fight. And it didn't matter from which skill tree they're coming from. And I really did like that. And I really do not like seeing that ability wheel, which we could see during the gameplay. It is too much like Mass Effect. I will be honest. I know at BioWare, it's the same company who makes also Mass Effect. Yes. But we need to keep in mind that those are two different franchises and partially also two different fandoms. Dragon Age was always a little bit different in terms of combat, in terms of, the skills, in terms of how you use the skills. And this just feels too Mass Effect-y for me, to be honest, and I don't like that. Don't get me wrong, I love both Dragon Age and I love both Mass Effect. I just don't want to mix them up. I do not want one of the combat styles or the controls from one game to affect the other ones. I don't want that. I like the games to be unique. And Dragon Age now is stopping to be unique for me in the terms of the combat. And from what I have seen, it looks like Mass Effect. And it's a big nope for me. And also the fact that we have only 3 abilities that we can use in a fight, oh, seriously, that's laughable. There's no other way for me to say it. You have a ton of skills where you can probably invest your points in, and then in combat you can only use 3. It's a limitation that's really very negative for me. It's the same whether I was playing now lately Mass Effect Andromeda or whether it's Dragon Age. No, it's a big nope. Also, your companions, they also have just 3 abilities, and it's really a pain to watch how to control your companions, at least from the gameplay. Yes, it was an early game. It was mentioned in the vid. It is an early game where you don't yet have all the skills and where your companions don't have all the skills. But still, I mean, just 3 skills per each person and only 3 people in a party. Again, like I said now, 3 people in a party. No, that's a big no again. Dragon Age always had 3 companions together with your main character, so always 4 people. It was great banter, which I think is something that was important as well. B, for many of the fights, you did need those 3 additional companions, not just 2. Because it became overwhelming partially, and especially when you were playing on higher difficulties. So for me to have now only 2 companions, again, this is just going somewhere into the Mass Effect direction, and I do not like it. So that's something that is not positively perceived by me, to be honest. Okay, so a little bit more about the main character. I will now read a little bit from the notes that I have. So we know that the main character is Rook, and there are 4 voice options for Rook in English. 2 will be with American accents and 2 with British accents. I'm wondering how this will be done both for male and female. This is something where I'm curious. You can choose your backstory, so you will have 6 factions to choose from when you create your character. All of those are with deep roots in Thedas, so you can either be an Antivan Crow, a Grey Warden, a Shadow Dragon, a Whale Jumper, or a Lord of Fortune. And there's also the Mornwatch. You can play as a human, elf, Kunari, and dwarf. So I think you have a lot of combinations here already possible, which is positive, which I like, because you can really get more replay value through this. You can play one game as a completely different character than the next one, so that one's really good. In the character creator, we have 5 categories that include lineage, appearance, class, faction, and playstyle. You can also choose different body sizes and shapes. I think that's great, because if you are allowed to play as a dwarf, for example, it would probably not make much sense to, be the same height as all the other companions, which are not dwarfs. So I do appreciate that one. So you can play around with that's good. And what was really positive for me was, it was also mentioned by Mike Gamble on Twitter, where he hinted at that before the gameplay reveal was there's an option to have long hair. And when I was reading the information then about the hairstyles, so you will have dozens of hairstyles to choose from, with individual strands of hair rendered separately and reacting quite remarkably to in-game physics, which is pulled from EA Sports. So I'm really looking forward to that one. We could see something already in the trailer, and it really did look good. So that's what I mentioned at the beginning. I did like the way how the fabrics moved, the clothing, the hair, and how it all reacted to the character's movement and to the environment. So this one should be really great. And then the character creator, one important bit as well, lets us adjust the lighting so you can be sure that our character looks good. And that is an important bit, because I did have this issue with a couple of games where you create your character. It does look good in the character creator, which has a certain lighting and a certain static light which doesn't change, and you create it in the character there, and then you start to play a game, and of course you will have different light conditions, you will have different environments where the character is interacting with the others, and then you see the character in various situations, and suddenly you realize, oh, that's not looking so great, and this is not what I wanted, or this is too dark, this is too light. And I think this one is really a good progress in terms of character creator, if we are able to change the lighting and see what the character looks like in different environments. So that one is really something where I see as a big plus point. This is a big plus point for me. We do get the usual standard 3 classes. So we have the warrior class that can use a sword and shield or two-handed weapon. We do have the rogue class, which can, either wield a bow or dual swords. And we have the mage class, which can use, all sorts of skills and wands. So this one is basically what we are used to from the previous Dragon Age games. So I'm glad this didn't change, to be honest. This one is something that is very familiar to the people that have played the previous games, and I really like that. In spite of all I have seen from the gameplay trailer and from the dialogues, I will be honest, I still don't like Solas. I'm not sure where that fondness for him is coming from, but alright, it's just not something that I would be, like his actions, are sometimes really not meant that badly, but they turn out really bad. And like I said, I'm just not fond of that character. But let's see what his, let's say, overall contribution to the Dragon Age Veilguard will be, considering the gameplay trailer. I mean, he's trying to destroy the veil, basically. And it's not exactly a positive action. So yeah, let's see. Okay, there was a bit mentioned regarding the romances. I'm usually going for a romance in a game if I have the option. It's not a must. It's just a fun little thing on top of the story. The main thing for me is always the story and how good the writing is, and how good the combat and the gameplay is. The romance is something on top, but it can be quite fun. So when I was reading through that one, there's one thing that I want to mention. The companions all are romanceable. It is supposed to be an M-rated game. The non-romanced companions will romance each other. So if you don't make your move, they will just start to romance each other. And then there was this one side note where I had to laugh, which was romance scenes can get spicy. Please, it's Bioware. Don't make me laugh. Guys, seriously, no. Bioware and spicy scenes, nah. You know what's spicy? Go back to The Witcher 2 and look at that one scene where Geralt is with Triss in the Elven Baths. That's spicy. The romance scenes that Bioware is doing, where we see people walking around in underwear, that's not spicy, okay? So unless I see it, I reserve judgment here, but for now, I just, laugh because Bioware and spicy just doesn't click together, sorry. What was surprising was that we can customize our Inquisitor from Dragon Age Inquisition in the character creator. And I was surprised by that because normally you only get the chance to change in the character creator your main character for that particular game. And you can basically normally just import some decisions from the previous games if they have an impact on this new one. The import, let's say, will be here as well. So they said that we will have the option to make a decision based on tarot cards. Not sure how they want to make it. But it was surprising that you will not be able just to simply make those decisions, but that you can really import your Inquisitor. So that will be probably something which will be a nice feature for the people who are going to play the game if they have played Dragon Age Inquisition. Which also brings me to the point, like, for people who have not played those previous games, or at least like the Dragon Age Inquisition and then the Trespasser DLC, which I think is more important to this game than any other games or the previous happenings. How really do they want to explain to new players, how in-depth will the explanation be for them to understand what kind of decision they're actually making? Because if you haven't played the previous games, it will be very hard to judge what your decision, what kind of impact it will have on the state of the world at your starting point. I think that here the tarot cards will have to be very in-depth explaining what's behind every one of those decisions. Otherwise, people might be setting up something which they will not be happy about going forward in the game. I think the Trespasser DLC here for the Dragon Age Veilguard is as important as, for example, the Arrival DLC from Mass Effect 2 was for the start of the game in Mass Effect 3, for you to understand actually what's happened and why the start of the game is as it is. So yeah, I'm wondering how in-depth the explanation will be for new players. Probably what you decided to do with the Inquisition and with Solas by the end of the game and the DLC will play a big role here. I did notice as well, like, we have there, or one of the characters has a young griffin that they will be using as a side companion or sidekick. Where's my Mabari, please? It was interesting to see that. So I'm not sure how much impact that Griffon will have on the combats. If it will be sort of like an additional support, the same way as the Mabari was previously, I think then it will be good to take the respective character with you who directs that Griffon or who has that Griffon. Yeah, we'll also get plenty of new locations. Some of them were already mentioned before. We have now seen, and it was also tweeted, that we will get to see the Arlatan Forest, Rivain, and Minratus. I think Minratus was the place where we could see the gameplay taking place, and many others. So the question is, okay, what's many? You can see on the screen a couple of the screenshots which we've got from the game devs and also from people who were able to play the game already before the release. So it is interesting. It's looking really great. Some of the locations have fantastic visuals. So that one is something that I see as a positive thing. Let's see how big the maps will be for each of the locations and how much we can explore. After all, I mean, after seeing that gameplay and after seeing the trailer, I still do have some questions which were not answered as well within the tweets and within all the other additional information, which I will be mentioning later on. So first of all, I would have loved to see a gameplay not just with one character from one class. I would have loved to see, several classes and also to see the gameplay from a later game, probably, where you have more skills and where your companions have more skills. I understand that the devs didn't want to give us any major spoilers, which is completely okay, but I still think that they could have picked just, some small side quest and do a small 2-3 minutes showcase of that gameplay over there and maybe show us a mage and show us a warrior. We've seen a rogue, which makes me happy. I'm usually playing as a rogue, but still, it would be nice to see the other classes. Then the next thing, which was something that popped up in my mind, is the customization. So how customizable will everything be? We already know that the main character will be customizable in the character creator, but what about the weapons? What about the armor? What about your companions? How much will that be adjustable? I know that in the previous games, many players were complaining that the companions always were the same, always have the same weapons. Now, we are not talking here about Bianca, Verix Bianca. Of course, they will have Bianca only because that's his signature weapon, right? But we're talking about the other companions. And I was a little bit disappointed to hear that the game is still run on the Frostbite engine. Why? Because it is a pain in the ass to mod. I could see that now with Mass Effect Andromeda. It's really problematic to apply any mods. So in case we do not have this sort of wide customization in the base game, again, people might just be disappointed. And then if they are only willing to play the game if they can customize some stuff, and the only option how to do that will be modding the game, they might end up like many people whom I have seen reacting to one of my vids, which was how to apply, mods to Mass Effect Andromeda, which are also Frostbite engine created mods or Frosty mods. And many people have written in the comment section that finally, after they have been able to make the mods work, now they are finally playing the game, because before that they didn't want to. They just, without the modding, they just didn't have the mood to even play the game, and it just didn't click for them. So if we are running into the same problem here as well with Dragon Age Veilguard, I'm guessing that there will be a lot of people who will be saying, okay, if I cannot change this and cannot change that, and I will have to mod it, and basically Frostbite is problematic and it's unmoddable in certain cases, and I'll just rather not play. And I'm afraid this is something that will happen with if it's even a small portion of players, but it will be at least a small portion for sure. So it's very unfortunate. For me, the Frostbite engine is not a positive thing, to be honest. Okay, let's go into some additional information that we have. The game will have a photo mode. There was some complaining from some of the people watching the gameplay that they said, okay, well, it looks like the combat is very clean, almost squeaky clean, so there was almost no blood. And where's all the blood splatter, right? Yeah, again, we're coming back to the fact that Dragon Age is supposed to be dark and gritty and gory, and it usually was there was a lot of blood there. So My Gamble has posted a screenshot, which is on the screen now, where you can see that there will be some blood spatter. Not sure if that is just, a rare occasion or if it will be very common. We will see. But it is something where the people were wondering about, so that's some additional information. What was surprising to me, okay, yeah, it's a single player, that was not a surprise, but there will be no microtransactions, and we are able to do two things. We can play offline, and we don't have to create an EA account to be able to play the game. And that's something which is really positive, I would say, because EA was a little bit problematic in that case in the previous games. Where you had to have an EA account, no matter where you bought the game, you still had to create an EA account, and you basically had to be permanently online to be able to play the game. And I think this is really a positive thing which I'm hearing, so this is a big plus point for me, and I'm pretty sure for a lot of other players as well. We will have quests that are handcrafted, mission-based, curated with alternate paths, secrets to discover, and optional content, and there are also some open-ended explorable areas. I am wondering here about that tiny mention of the alternate paths. It looks like this game will be huge then, because you have a vast amount of options on how to set up your world. So the state of the world, the start of the game already will be impacted by your previous playthroughs and by your decisions. And then you have alternate paths here now within the game, which you can take. Now the question is, okay, is it because of the decisions I'm going to make? So I will see, after a certain decision, I will see a certain path and can only proceed on that one. And in order to see the other one, I would have to replay the game and do another decision. Or is it alternate paths in terms of, yeah, it doesn't matter if you do this quest sooner or later, because that's a big difference. So I'm wondering here about that one, what they mean with alternate paths, to be honest. Enemies will have elemental weaknesses and resistances, and you can chain together elemental combos for extra damage. Now, the elemental weaknesses and resistances, that's fine, that's great, because if you have a mage, for example, that's capable of doing something like a fire-based spell and use it on an enemy that has a weakness against fire, it's perfect. What I do not like is the second part of that sentence, elemental combos for extra damage. Yes, I guess for the majority of the players, this will be a big plus point. For me, it's not simply because it feels to me like Mass Effect. This is not Dragon Age. This is something that comes from Mass Effect. And while I do love it in Mass Effect, I don't think it has any place in Dragon Age. This is not how Dragon Age combat was for me until now. Call me an old dinosaur stuck in the old ways. But yeah, I am not fond of that feature, to be honest, not in Dragon Age. There will be a hub area called the Lighthouse. And then the companions that we have will have loyalty or some unique missions. So this should be interesting, because there was also a mention that we could lose some characters during the story. Now the question is, like, are we going to lose them because of not fulfilling their mission and just for them to disappear, like we have seen, for example, with Isabella in Dragon Age 2? Or will it be that we will have to make basically life and death decisions, which is something that will be painful to play through? Yeah, it is something that will be quite interesting to see as well. So, and also, will it be the companions or will it be some side characters? That's also a good question. So again, another question mark here. We could see during the gameplay that Bianca actually got destroyed by Solas, and I was wondering whether this is just a marketing gig, to be honest, because this was probably just some tutorial just to show us the gameplay, and maybe it's not really in the game. I don't know if this would really happen at the start of the game. How Varric would go on. I mean, Varric and Bianca, it just needs to be together. I don't understand like how Varric can function without her. It's just something that's tied to him. So that's, I think, something where because people will be asking that question and want to know more and more and more, I think it's a good way how to, keep up the hype until fall, because the game is supposed to come out in fall. I think that is a nice little feature which they have just implemented there, and they just left it on that, let's say, cliffhanger, and people will be now wondering. Release should be somewhere around fall. We know that it will be released on all platforms. It will be PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC, but we do not know yet the PC requirements, and I think that is also something that will be important for many people. They will look out for the specs simply because they need to know whether their current PCs will be able to play this game. I do hope yes. And just going back to that release date, yeah, it was said that we don't have yet a specific release date. It just said like fall. My bet is still on November, probably, because in November it will be 15 years since Dragon Age Origins and 10 years since Dragon Age Inquisition. So November would make most sense, I guess, or then start of December with the, let's say, Dragon Age Day, unofficial Dragon Age Day. So yeah, it will be interesting. I guess we will get more information throughout the summer, and we'll get also then the release date. When we have that one, I will of course let you know, and I will at least post it on my Twitter account. So let me just maybe quickly, summarize or do a small recap or some observations from my side. From what I could see, obviously the game is a difference, has a difference compared with the previous Dragon Age games. It was like that with all the previous games as well. There was a leap, always big leap between the first one, the second, and then to Dragon Age Inquisition. So from this point of view, I am not surprised, let me put it that way. I am relatively neutral, or I'm trying to be neutral. As you have seen, I have pointed out some negative things. I have pointed out also some positive things. So I'm not hyped. I am not hating it either. I think what's most important is that we get a good story. The story is important for me. The writing is important for me. The characters, let's say, need to be in character. I hope that this will be the case, at least for Varric and for Harding, whom we know from the previous games. And I hope that the writing and the dialogues will be, let's say, mature to be representative of what the Dragon Age franchise has always been, which is this dark fantasy. And I really hope that it will not turn into some goofy companions and into too much Mass Effect influence, because that would be not really perceived so greatly by many people, including me. I hope that they will stick to the lore. That's the important bit as well. And if that is the case, and if the writing is fine, if the story is fine, and the combat is manageable, let's say, then I can overlook the other negative sides of it. But for now, I have some reservations, as I've mentioned. I hope the game will not be bloated, and in relation to that, I hope that it will have a, let's say, normal pricing. I'd rather have a little bit of a shorter game that has more quality than quantity, and pay for it, let's say, the usual standard price, which we can see now for AAA games. And I hope that they will not go overboard with that one. Situation's not exactly great for many people due to the inflation in many countries, and I don't think that if the prices will go up through the roof, that many people will be able to afford the game. So one thing is to like it, look forward to it, and wanting to play. The other one is the pricing and if people can afford it. So I hope that this is something that they will keep in mind, definitely. In general, I am a little bit wary at this point. The Dragon Age fandom is a fandom that is here since 15 years. Basically since the first Dragon Age Origin game came out, and the main base of that fandom is coming back from to those days. That there are people who have played all the games, and most of the players within the franchise are familiar with the previous games. That also means, that people have certain expectations. They have a certain age by now. And I'm really hoping that Bioware didn't try to please everyone with the game, because when you try to please everyone, in the end you will please no one, and especially not the people who are used to a certain lore style, this kind of dark fantasy features in that franchise. And when you try to make it too funky, too goofy, too silly for some young new players, don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against young new players. That's not the point. I just want the people to understand that the franchise has a certain name and reputation, and that is what the people from the core fan base are expecting from the game. So I'm really hoping that once the game is released, we will see a lot of the original feeling from the previous Dragon Age games coming back. I think the problem is that if this game fails, it doesn't look so great with the next Mass Effect game as well, and with BioWare overall. So there is a lot that is depending on the success of this game, and I really hope that the developers have considered this. Now, if you want to ask more questions directly the developers, you can join them in their developer Q&A, which they host on their Discord server. The link to that server and that discussion is below in the description, just like the link to the trailer and the gameplay, so you can enjoy them without my comments and with the original sound, which I couldn't put in here because of copyright claims. I will be keeping you posted later on during the summer, probably again in a quick summary bit, as we get more information. At this point it was quite a lot, but I hope that you can enjoy what we have gotten so far. In the meantime, please check out my Twitter account. I'm posting there every time when there's something new, so you can get the latest information directly there. And if you like this vid, I would be really happy if you would hit that like button below. If you like the channel, you can check out what I'm doing. There's plenty of other vids for you to review. So if you like my channel, it would be great if you could also hit that subscribe button. I would be really thankful. It's really much appreciated. Thanks a lot for watching. Stay tuned and game on.